Right then, welcome back to War Thunder, where today we'll be taking a little look at everyone's favourite Italian biplane, the Fiat CR.32, and its little brother, the CR.32 quater, because these two aircraft are, like most reserve aircraft, pretty much the same. Now, as usual, I'll be blathering on about the history and technical details first. If you wish to skip all that interestingness and instead watch a bunch of biplanes flying about shooting at each other, then fear not! I've graciously provided you with a timecode in the video description so you can go straight there. Isn't technology simply fabulous? For the rest of us, let's put on our moustaches and goggles, pour some spaghetti into the cockpit and take a nice nap in the middle of the day as we examine the history of the Fiat CR.32. For this video, guess what? We're going way back in time to before the First World War, a time where steampunk was part of everyday life, and a moustache and pith helmet were all a gentleman needed to own most of Africa. Yes, the year is 1911. At this time, the Kingdom of Italy was at war with the Turkish Ottoman Empire over control of areas of the country we know today as Libya. It was during this conflict that heavier-than-air flying machines were used in combat for the first time in history, the Italians fielding a small number of aircraft, including two Ettrick Taube monoplanes, a pair of Blériot 11s, three Newport 4Gs, and a couple of Farman 3 biplanes some of you may recognise from the Mitsubishi F1M episode, for reconnaissance and ground attack duties. During the First World War, the Italian Air Force, like that of every other country until 1918, was a branch of the army. The Corpo Aeronautico Militare, as it was then known, was very unorganised at the start of the war, even more so than the very new air forces of Britain, France and Germany, and may have been one of the factors contributing to Italy's decision to stay neutral for the first year of the war. During this time, Italy tried to build up its stock of flying machines using imports from Britain, France and Germany, but due to bureaucratic issues had only managed to gather some 86 aircraft, mostly French-built, by the time Italy joined the Entente. Due to this snafu regarding imported aircraft, the Italian government decided to allow the formation of Italian aviation companies, namely Aeronautica Maci, the Società o Nomina Meccanica Lombarda, or SAML, and the Società Idrovolanti Alta Italia, which would eventually become Savoia Marchetti. Despite this, however, Italy was forced to rely primarily on French aircraft, such as Nieuports and Spads, for the duration of the First World War, with the notable exception of the Caproni CA-33 three-engined heavy bomber. Fiat was founded in 1899 as an automobile company. Back then, Fiat was actually an acronym standing for Fabbrica Italiana di Automobili Torino. In 1908, during the pioneering years of aviation, Fiat decided to begin manufacturing aircraft engines, starting with the 50 horsepower V8 Fiat SA 8/75 derived from a racing car engine, and culminating with the 100 horsepower straight-six Fiat A10, of which 15,000 were built and exported widely in 1915. It was at this time that Fiat decided that it would create a branch of its company dedicated specifically to manufacturing aircraft. This came to fruition in 1916 as the Società Italiana Aviazione, although this was changed to Fiat Aviation in 1918. Fiat's first aircraft was the Fiat R2, a conventional reconnaissance biplane first flown in 1919. 129 were built, some being sold to Turkey. Italy's independent air force, the Regia Aeronautica, was founded in 1923 as a result of Mussolini's military reforms. In answer to this, Fiat designed and built their first fighter aircraft, the Fiat CR.1. This bizarre-looking inverted sesquiplane featured a 320 horsepower Isotta Fraschini Asso V8 engine and two synchronized 7.7mm Vickers machine guns. 240 CR1s were ordered by the Regia Aeronautica, and although Fiat attempted to set up export orders with Belgium and Poland, both countries rejected the aircraft, preferring to stick with their World War I era designs. Latvia, however, ordered 9 CR1s on the condition that their engines were changed to the 300 horsepower Hispano-Suiza HS8N8 engine, for which it was easier to procure spare parts. Latvia operated the Fiat CR1 until 1936. In 1926, just as the Regia Aeronautica had finished equipping with Fiat CR1s, it was decided that an improved fighter aircraft was desirable. Fiat's answer, the Fiat CR.20, was ready for trials by that summer, and was essentially a much improved CR1. Instead of the unusual inverted sesquiplane formation utilised by the CR1, the CR.20 featured a more traditional sesquiplane wing arrangement, as well as a 410 horsepower Fiat A20 V12 engine. The armament of 2 synchronised Vickers machine guns remained the same. Around 735 CR-20s were built, mostly for the Regia Aeronautica, although some were sold to Austria, Hungary, Lithuania, Poland, Spain and even Paraguay and the Soviet Union. A few different versions were built, mostly featuring alternative engines, but also a float plane and a 2-seat training aircraft were available. The Fiat CR-20 saw service in the Second Italo-Abyssinian War and against Libyan rebels as an attack aircraft, but was relegated to training roles in the 1930s. Paraguay utilised its 5 CR-20s during the Chaco War against Bolivia. In 1930, Fiat decided to create a potential replacement for the Fiat CR-20. The resulting aircraft, the Fiat CR-30, first flew in 1932, where it made an impression at the 1932 International Aeronautical Conference in Zurich, where it won the Speed Circuit contest. As a result of this performance, the Regia Aeronautica ordered 121 aircraft. The Fiat CR30 was powered by a 600 horsepower Fiat A30RA V12 engine and featured 2 synchronized 7.7mm Breda Safat machine guns. In addition, a 2-seat training/liaison version designated CR30B and a seaplane variant designated CR30 Idro were developed, as well as the 121 aircraft ordered by the Italian Air Force. Small numbers of Fiat CR-30s and CR-30Bs were sent to Austria, the Chinese nationalists, Hungary, the Spanish nationalists, Paraguay and Venezuela. The Luftwaffe obtained Austria's CR-30s when that country was annexed by Germany. Which brings us on to the subject of today's video. The design for the Fiat CR30 was completed and manufacture began in 1932. Immediately, however, Celestino Rosatelli, who had designed all of Fiat's fighter aircraft up until that point, began working on the CR30's intended replacement, as any good aircraft designer should. He took the CR30 design and began by making it smaller, reducing the wingspan from 10.5 metres to 9.4 metres, and shortening the fuselage from 7.7 metres to 7.3 metres. He also moved several of the aircraft's components in order to redistribute the weight, which included moving the auxiliary fuel tank to the upper wing. Also included was the ability to switch the aircraft's twin 7.7mm Breda Safat machine guns with 2 12.7mm Breda Safat machine guns. All of these changes succeeded in making the new aircraft, designated Fiat CR.32, faster and more manoeuvrable than its predecessor. The Regia Aeronautica ordered the new fighter as soon as it was ready in 1934, and Fiat continued manufacturing CR-32s until 1939, at which point 1,212 aircraft had been built. Fiat CR-32s were first deployed in Spain in August 1936, fighting on the side of the Spanish nationalists during the Spanish Civil War. Here they proved to be very effective against the majority of their Spanish Republican opposition, proving superior to the Polikarpov I-15, and although the Polikarpov I-16 initially proved to be a more capable aircraft in regards to performance, the skilled Italian pilots quickly worked out how to exploit that aircraft's weaknesses using their CR-32's greater manoeuvrability and firepower. However, the success of the CR-32 in Spain eventually worked against the Italian Air Force, who, believing the biplane fighter to still be a viable alternative to the monoplane fighter, ordered the Fiat CR-42 into production in 1939, at which point it had already been made obsolete by the advanced monoplane fighters already in production by Italy's enemies, most notably the RAF's Hawker Hurricane and Supermarine Spitfire. Despite this, when Italy first entered the Second World War in June 1940, the Fiat CR-32s, most of which were now the quater variant and made up almost two-thirds of the entire Regia Aeronautica, still saw some initial success against the RAF in North Africa, shooting down a few Bristol Blenheims, Hawker Hurricanes and even a South African Air Force Junkers Ju-86. However, the British quickly learned how to effectively utilise their far more powerful fighters against the manoeuvrable little Italian biplanes, and as a result, just 10 months later only a single serviceable Fiat CR-32 remained in North Africa. The aircraft was officially withdrawn from frontline service in May 1941, being relegated to the training role. In addition to the standard Fiat CR-32, there were three other variants. After the CR-32 came the CR-32 bis, which replaced its predecessor in 1935. We also have this aircraft in War Thunder as a premium aircraft, but that particular variant shall be getting its own video, so look forward to that. Anyways, after the bis came the Fiat CR-32 Ter, which in addition to deleting the wing guns of the CR-32 bis, introduced some minor changes to the design, such as the replacement of the airflow measuring spinny thing on the front of the auxiliary fuel tank nacelle with a smooth fairing. Lastly came the Fiat CR-32 Quater, which we'll also be covering today. The main improvements of the Quater included the replacement of the Fiat A30 engine that had been retained from the Fiat CR30 with the slightly more powerful Fiat A30 bis engine, as well as an overall reduction of the aircraft's weight and the ability to carry two 100kg bombs, although this last feature is not modelled in War Thunder. In addition to the Regia Aeronautica, a few other countries operated the Fiat CR-32. These included Austria, who ordered 45 CR-32 bis in 1936, although these were taken by the Luftwaffe when Germany annexed that country. The Luftwaffe, however, didn't much appreciate this obsolete little biplane and so sold them to Hungary. Hungary had already purchased 52 CR-32s armed with 7.7mm machine guns, and used these aircraft in addition to the ones given by Germany against Slovakia, Yugoslavia, and during the opening days of Operation Barbarossa. However, they were soon relegated to training duties after some less than favourable encounters with Soviet fighters. The Spanish nationalists purchased 60 CR-32 Ter in 1937 and 27 CR-32 Quater in 1938, which it used extensively during the closing years of the Spanish Civil War. After they had won, the Italian forces that had fought alongside them gave them their CR-32s, as well as a production license. From 1939 to 1942, the Spanish aircraft manufacturer Hispano built 100 CR-32s under the designation Hispano Aviation HA132-L. The last of these was not retired until 1953. China ordered 24 Fiat CR-32s in 1933. However, only 16 were delivered before China cancelled the order due to concerns regarding the difficulty of obtaining spare parts. The 16 that were delivered were used against the Japanese, being preferred by their pilots over the more numerous Curtiss P-6 Hawk. Venezuela purchased 10 CR-32 Quater between 1938 and 1939, and although Paraguay also ordered 10 similar aircraft in 1937, only 4 were delivered. In addition to the 4 main production variants of the CR-32, Fiat also produced a number of prototypes based on the airframe. The first of these was the Fiat CR-33, which replaced the 600 horsepower Fiat A30 engine with a 700 horsepower Fiat AC33RC engine. 3 prototypes were built. Another prototype was developed alongside the prototype CR-32, this being the Fiat CR-40. This aircraft was fitted with a 525 horsepower Bristol Mercury 4 radial engine, as well as a gull-type upper wing configuration. However, this aircraft was found to perform worse than the CR-32, and so was not put into production. However, the design was steadily improved, being fitted with a 700 horsepower Fiat A59R radial engine in the CR40 bis, of which a single prototype was produced, and the Fiat CR41, which was the direct progenitor of the famous Fiat CR.32. But that, boys and girls, is a story for another episode. For now, it's time to take a little look at the Fiat CR32 inside the wonderful world of War Thunder. Right then, here we have the Fiat CR32 and the CR32 quater. Look at them there, aren't they lovely? In-game, they are both Rank 1 BR-1 reserve biplane fighter aircraft. They have a Warren W strutted sesquiplane configuration with a crew of 1, the pilot. The CR32 is powered by a single Fiat A30 water-cooled 12-cylinder inline piston engine, producing 591 horsepower, or 435 kilowatts. The CR32 quater is powered by a single Fiat A30 bis 12-cylinder liquid-cooled inline piston engine, producing the same amount of power. The main difference between these two engines is that the A30 bis can produce wartime emergency power, increasing engine output to 788 horsepower or 580 kilowatts. However, this can only be utilized for a short period of time before the engine begins to overheat. Cruising speed is around 318 km per hour at 3,000 meters or 198 miles per hour at 10,000 feet. Top speed is around 560 km per hour, or 348 miles per hour, and absolute top speed, the point at which things start to fall off the aircraft, is around 640 km per hour, or 398 miles per hour. Performance for both aircraft is virtually identical. However, the CR32 quater, with its boost-capable engine, is able to reach a speed of 333 km per hour in level flight at 3,000 meters, or 206 miles per hour at 10,000 feet. Both aircraft feature no armour protection, and both are armed with two fixed forward-firing 12.7mm Predecessors Fat machine guns, situated in the engine cowling in front of the cockpit, each with 350 rounds of ammunition for a total of 700 rounds. Ammunition choices for both aircraft is the same, with the choice of default, universal, air targets, tracers or stealth. I would recommend using either air target or stealth belts for air battles, as they contain the most incendiary rounds, and universal belts for ground battles due to the higher number of armour-piercing rounds. Interior layout is okay, not great. All the gubbins to do with cooling are in the nose and so liable to be damaged whenever you attack things head-on. The main fuel tank is behind the engine, and so is only likely to be hit by shots from the sides or underneath. However, there is an auxiliary fuel tank in the upper wing, which is more prone to damage. Both tanks are self-sealing, however, which is nice. As I said before, there is no armour in the aircraft, so the pilot is very vulnerable to attacks from behind. Visibility from inside the cockpit is not particularly good for a biplane. By default, the pilot is looking through the ring and bead gun sight, which leaves the entire lower hemisphere of his view blocked by the aircraft. For this reason, I'd recommend raising your head a little when not shooting at anything. Forward visibility is somewhat impaired by the upper wing and the large amount of interplane struts connecting the upper and lower wings. However, the upper wing is relatively low down, so all-round view is pretty good. Also, open cockpit equals good rear view. Next to the ring and bead gun sight is a telescopic gun sight, which I personally am not a fan of, but some people do like. Now for the instruments and controls. There are no sources that I have managed to find that have anything to say about what all these dials mean, but I, with the help of an expert in these matters, have managed to suss out their meaning to a fair degree of confidence. In the centre, at the top of the instrument panel, is the compass, between the two charging handles for the machine guns. Top left is a switch labelled Estintore Vittoria Torino. Estintore probably means, well, it means fire extinguishers. Vittoria Torino means Victory Torino, so it's probably a manufacturer's label. Inside the black circle is a red one, on which is printed Aviatore di Esendrio, which means fire alarm. Presumably, if the engine catches fire, an alarm will sound, at which point the pilot will press this button to activate the fire extinguishers. Below it, the dial labelled B is the fuel pressure gauge, and the one labelled O is the oil pressure. Manometro simply means pressure gauge. Next, the dial with the two needles displays oil and water temperature. The O needle shows oil and the A needle shows water. Teletermometro means remote thermometer. The shiny thing below it is some form of warning light, possibly related to the fire alarm, possibly to do with fuel level. The little dial tucked away in the corner is, I think, the magneto position indicator. The lever on the side there is labelled Rubinetto Benzina, which means petrol tap, with settings for serbatorio, or tank, chiusio, or closed, and norice, which even Google cannot decipher. However, I'm pretty sure that this doohickey is the fuel tank selector. The round box device is the oxygen control box for the pilot. Inhalatore automatico di ossigeno, meaning automatic oxygen inhaler. The dial allows the pilot to select either manual or automatic adjustment of oxygen flow, which he can control in manual mode, presumably using that wheel. The vertical indicator displays litres per hour, and the dial shows oxygen pressure. The dial labelled Giri is the tachometer. Giri 100 probably meaning multiply by 100, even though Giri 100 literally translates to 100 laps. The dial labelled Indicatore di Velocità is clearly the airspeed indicator, which for some reason is duplicated on the right side of the instrument panel. This is not Gaijin being lazy. The actual CR.32 had two airspeed indicators. Presumably the little knob underneath the one on the right allows it to be adjusted, possibly to allow the pilot to get it to show actual airspeed, as opposed to indicated airspeed, which would be useful for navigation. The instrument labelled Vivato Spandamento is the slip and turn indicator. Next along is the pitch indicator, and then the altimeter. Above that is the chronometer, or clock, manufactured by Boletti. This is used for navigation as well as timekeeping for fuel level and stuff like that. The knob next to the clock is labelled Avvitare a fondo dopo l'uso, which means screw in thoroughly after use. I think it may be the fuel primer, but I'm not really certain. Anyways, we've already seen the auxiliary airspeed indicator, so beneath it is a funny little switch labelled as Televo litri in linea. Google cannot translate televel, but litri in linea means litres in line. This dial is the fuel gauge. I found out by comparing it between a nearly empty aircraft and one with full tanks. Aren't I clever? Both those little dials at the bottom there are labelled freno, which means brake, so they are most likely brake pressure. They don't seem to change no matter what I do to the aircraft, so they might just be cosmetic. That metal panel there is the map holder, and that doohickey underneath is the fuse box. The throttle, mixture and radiator controls are all in their usual places, although the throttle does go backwards, as are the rudder pedals, control column and trigger. The instrument panel for the CR.32 quater is mostly the same, although there are a few minor differences. For example, the telescopic gun sight has been moved to the centre, meaning that the ring and bead sight is now offset. The compass is a different make, the fuel and oil pressure gauges and the water and oil temperature gauge has been rearranged slightly, and the chronometer has been moved from the instrument panel to the side of the cockpit. Oh, and the screw in thoroughly after use knob has been moved from the right side of the instrument panel to the left side, presumably so that the pilot can more easily screw it thoroughly with his left hand, while keeping his right hand on the stick. Right then, now that we all know how the CR.32 works, how about we take it into a little battle or two, Right, so the first battle here is on somewhere in Russia. We take the CR.32 out, the basic one, and load it up with air targets, of course, and put the fuel to 30 minutes. You want to have enough fuel. I think I put it to 30 minutes. Can't really see, the screen's too small. Anyway, you can see how small the CR.32 is. It's smaller than an HE-51, isn't that interesting? He's, of course, shooting his guns like an imbecile. No matter, it's his ammunition. He's entitled to waste it. Anyway, so initially we turn off to the side to avoid the cluster heck of all the ridiculous biplanes being flown by silly people. And we're gonna go fly off to the side, do a little bit of side climbing, don't you know? Because although this is a biplane, it doesn't climb all that well compared to some things. For example, the I-15, or indeed the I-16, I think. Oh look! There's a hawk just outside the window. It's pretty cool. Anyway, you can't see that, but yeah. So, we're flying up into the sky. Good way to tell how well you're side climbing, or a good method to side climb in, is to head towards your bombing points, your allied bombing points. Head to the furthest one out, and then once you reach it, head towards the enemy one. And then hopefully by the time you're up to a decent altitude, some enemy aeroplanes will be flying around so you can shoot at them. What was that? I think that's a kite. I'm talking about the hawk again. It's a kite. Anyway, so yes, there's a Hampton over there. Handley Page Hampton. There's no way we're going to catch it. But, aha! Some fighters! I'm going to turn away from them, because they are slightly higher than I am. And without the height advantage, I have no advantage. Especially against the Lag 3, if he knows what he's doing. Kai-45, we all know that the Japanese participated in the attack on Mozdok. I think this is Mozdok. He's going off to intercept the... oh, he's attacking ground targets, never mind. Anyway, so that Lag 3 and that I-15 they're still heading this way. I'm going to turn towards them a little bit. And there's something else down. Yep, there's an F-3F. Oh no. That's an American aeroplane. That means he's going to have 50 cows. Quite a lot of aeroplanes buzzing about now. Anyway, there you can see the I-15's spectacular climb rate. It's much better than the CR.32's. And a French aeroplane. That should be easy pickings, I think to myself. Oh, but then he's got a friend. Here, the I-15 is getting a little bit close, so I'm going to continue in this direction. Hopefully that French aeroplane has got enough on his plate, and I'm going to rescue our little friend in the A5M4. So we're swooping down on him. We're swooping, building up some speed, but he's going too fast. And I decide, no, that's stupid. I'm never going to catch him. And I don't want to trade all this altitude for a silly little French aeroplane. So I'm going to keep an eye on him, see what he's doing, but... see what else is going on as well. Oh, there's a P-26 down there. I'm going to swoop on that. That's even easier pickings, I'm thinking to myself. But there are a lot of aeroplanes that are higher than I. And so it would be dangerous to swoop down just yet. A pair of bombers over there, miles away. P-26 down there. H-75, that's a export version of the American P-36 Hawk. Speaking of hawks, I can't see the kite outside anymore. He was just circling around. Anyway, so we're going to swoop down on this Lag 3, who's foolishly attacking ground targets. And also the F3F. But we decide, no, the Lag 3 is a more prescient target. He's got a cannon after all. And the flak opens up, and holy moly, how are we ever going to get through this? It's flacking up all over the place. We're swooping down, we're getting close now. And, oh, we're opening up with our machine guns, and we get a hit. And stuff falls off his aeroplane, he's leaking coolant all over the place. I do a little swoop around, and I come for another attack. Oh, but oh no, that silly little Japanese aeroplane is trying to steal my kill. But luckily he misses. So we continue to shoot at him, causing even more damage, and he's leaking oil. And he's got critical hits. But oh no, the F3F attacks us from the side. And oh, he's going to rescue his little friend. And it seems that he's a little bit more manoeuvrable than the CR.32, which is annoying. So I'm trying to outturn him, but I just can't do it. And the flak's all poofing up all over the place, but we shoot down the Lag 3, which is nice. And the F3F comes back, and I loop down under him, but for some reason I hit a tree. Like an imbecile. And there we have it. The CR.32. It flied into a tree. So next, we're up here in the CR.32 quater. We're swooping down on a thing, P-26. This battle, however, we didn't really get any kills. Narrowly avoid him. Come round for another attack, but he's already been swarmed by many allied aeroplane. Take a few pot shots, get a hit, and very closely come to hitting him again, and one of our allies. Best not to take risks like that. Anyway, so we don't really kill anything in this match. Just get an assist. And so, this is the CR.32 match that sticks. We take it out on, I think this is somewhere in Germany. Essen. That's somewhere in Germany, isn't it? Well, of course it is. Duisburg is. And, same sort of loadout. And here we are. Gonna take off among all these advanced monoplane fighters. They're all, of course, going much faster than I, because they're in better aeroplanes. And here we are, climbing into the sky. And of course, I'm doing my little side climbing technique, and because this is a CR.32 quater, we get a boost to Schwepp. We get a boostable engine, so now we're applying that wartime emergency power, coursing the horsepowers into the engine and out the other side, and yeah, that's how we do. Climb up this way a little bit. Keep climbing. Bombers are already far ahead, but no matter. And climbing still towards the bombing point. And oh ho, there's a kingfisher, I think. I'm gonna turn towards him. If there's a kingfisher all on his own, well, it'd be rude to pass up on that opportunity. Seems as though... oh no, he crashed. What an idiot. Right, so Predecessors 633 it is. That funny little French fighter thing. Two-engined fighter. I think that's the version that is. It might be the light bomber version, of course. In fact, judging by the shape of its little icon thing, it probably is the bomber version. No matter! We can shoot it down nonetheless. Although that HE-100 appears to have already set it as its target. So we're looking around for anything else. There's nothing else. They're shooting at each other. They do a head-on pass. And looking and seeing, does HE-100 need our help? But oh no, there's a French aeroplane coming in. A CR.714, the one with the air-cooled inline engine. He's gonna try and help out his friend in the Potes. He's coming in. He's coming in super fast. But don't worry. We're on station. Oh no, there's an HE-112. God damn it. There's always a faster aeroplane on your side, ready to steal your kills. For some reason, they didn't really shoot at each other. Well, maybe he's using stealth. No, he's not. Well, he's shooting at the CR-14. And I think, well, they've got it under control, don't they? But oh, the Potes is getting away. He's going off on his own. Nobody's chasing him. Well, we'll see about that. His rear gunner opens up. But the shots go crazy. And we're coming in. Oh, we're opening up with our guns. Causing a little bit of damage. His defensive machine gun is shooting back at us a little bit. And he does take a fair few shots. Of course, I'm not a very good shot myself, so I do miss. And he's on fire! And I think that's it. He's down, but oh no, he puts the fire out. That's crazy talking. So we got to keep shooting at him. He's diving and janking and moving around, and he's shooting someone else. And some idiot does a head-on pass, but I set him on fire again, so it's my kill, it's mine, and he goes down. Yeah, and I get the kill for it, so screw you. HE-112. Nobody likes you. But then I notice, oh, we're leaking oil, so we better fly back to the aeroplane base. There we are, coming in for a perfect landing. Cutting the engine, oh, well, no flaps, so don't worry about that. Although it does, the plane does take a little to slow it down. And swooping low over the grass. Some people would say, oh, you're coming in too low for a landing. Well, what do you call that? I call that a landing. Too low. What are you talking about? Yeah, Mr. Stuka, how was that? Yeah, that was pretty good, wasn't it? Had oil leaking all over the place as well. Yeah. And come to a nice graceful stop, and the tail plonks down and shut off the engine. There we are. So we're back up in the air after reloading, rearming and refueling and whatnot. And there's a P-26 over there. P-26, they're easy targets, aren't they? They're slow, they're indefensible, they've got crappy little guns, although one of them does have a 50 cal, and they can't really manoeuvre. So I think, well, this should be super easy. We'll defeat him in no time. A little bit of flak, I think. And swooping down on this P-26, he's attacking our friend in the Stuka. I say, don't worry, Mr. Stuka, and I set him on fire. But then I crash into him, because I'm an idiot. And the wing comes off. And I'm too low to jump out with my parachute, but luckily I get the kill. So, I guess that goes to show. Even when you fly like an imbecile, you can still get yourself a kill. That should be on a t-shirt. Yeah. And so there you have it. The Fiat CR.32 and the CR.42 quater. They're both, they're okay as reserve aircraft go. They're not the most manoeuvrable, they're not the fastest. I don't think they have the best armament. I mean, they've got two 12.7mm machine guns, but they are Predecessors fat machine guns, and I've always found that they're not quite as reliable as other machine guns. I still think the best one is the it's the I-15, because you can have bombs with that, and it's got 4 laser machine guns, and it tends to kill a lot of things, and is very, very manoeuvrable, and it climbs very quickly, and although it's not the fastest, it's still pretty fast. This, in comparison, is less manoeuvrable, it's faster, but not by much, it climbs not quite as well, and the armament is unreliable, at best, shall we say. But hey, there are worse aircraft you could go with, such as the American one, the pea shooter, or the Hawker Fury from Britain. Right, so yes, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you'll also join us for the next one, where we'll be taking a little look at, seeing as how the Italian tanks haven't been added yet, the Biplane 375, is it? One of those, well, both of those funny little reserve parasol-winged aeroplane things that the French have. So won't that be exciting? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.